Hello, everyone. My name is Laura Newell with System Surveyor. I'd like to welcome you to today's training webinar, a deeper dive into collaboration tips and tricks. Thank you for joining us. A few housekeeping items. Please note that we've had a great response to today's webinar, so our participants are placed on mute. But at any time during the session, feel free to use the Q&A icon in the Zoom webinar interface, and we'll address all questions at the end of the session. Also, please note we are recording this webinar. So if you kind of miss something or need to rewatch or even share with a colleague, please look for an email from me, usually by the end of the day with the recording. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Sean Petty, our customer support specialist who works closely with our users to ensure that they successfully use the tool effectively. Hey, Sean, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Laura, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, thank you for that. And just to go over today's agenda, we are going to go through 3 simple ways to really collaborate within the System Surveyor platform, and that is sending and sharing links, inviting guest users, and using the comments section. After that, we're going to go into a quick Q&A session before ending the webinar today. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and go right into some of the benefits of collaboration itself. So what are some of the benefits of this? So it means that you can engage with everyone in one place without sending emails. As someone who works support, I know the pain of having a lot of emails in a lot of different places. This is one great place to be able to collaborate and talk to people in one space. It's also a great way to invite extended team members without having them be part of your organization. You can also limit the time that they have access and communicating seamlessly with your team through the comments section as well. So with that, let's go ahead and show you guys what this looks like today. I'm going to go ahead and get into System Surveyor. And Laura, just to confirm, are you able to see my System Surveyor screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, fantastic. So for those who are new, this is what the System Surveyor home screen looks like. The first thing that we're going to go through is how to send a link. And before we do that, let's go over what kinds of access you can give people within the System Surveyor platform that are outside of your team. And when I mean outside of your team, anyone who doesn't have a full license to System Surveyor under your team. So there are 2 different ways. You've got read access and edit access. Read access, or view only access as it's called, only gives people the availability to view. So they can view attributes, they can view layouts, but they're unable to edit. And then you've got edit access, which gives them the availability to do edits on a survey. So if they need to make changes to attributes on what's already there or design, they can as needed. The first of what we're going to be showing is sending a link. There are 2 different ways and 2 different levels that you can do this. The first of which is at a site level. And what this could be, and the instance I'm going to give is, let's say I'm working at Allen High School, and Laura is my contact at Allen High School, and I want her to be able to view the surveys that I have in my site. I can, while hovered over this site, click on the 3 dots on the right-hand side of the page, and you'll have options here. We're going to click Send a Link. And what this does is this pops up a window to ask, who's getting this link, when does it expire, and when you want to include a message. So if Laura is my contact, I can go through and I can type in her email there. I can choose an expiration date, and I can choose a message here. And once I send a link, it's going to send her an email and a passcode to have brief access. And this is what an example of that would look like. Is they'll get an email that says, hey, so-and-so shared either a site or a survey from System Surveyor with you. Click on the link below, enter the passcode to reveal the survey. And they can just copy and paste this from their email. It also gives them the expiry date. So there's no guesswork on how long they have access to view that document or to view those surveys. You'll have that availability to see that here. Now, you can do this at the site level, or you can narrow it down to even individual surveys if you don't want to give them access to every survey on that project. So let's say I'm only working on West Campus, and Laura, instead of being my contact for the entire project, is only my contact for the 4th floor edits that we're making. I can go through and on the 3 dots from this survey tile, also choose Send a Link, enter in the emails, the expiration date, and the message, And what that'll do is send an email over to her to log in and look at just that survey. Now, again, this is view only access. So the only things that they're going to be able to do are click into attributes and view those individual attributes. And this includes photos as well. So if you have any photo attachments that are there, you can have that needed as well. Now, we've gone over view access, but let's go over another scenario. Let's talk about guest users. So let's say Laura is, more involved than just needing to be able to view it. Laura is maybe a subcontractor that's working with us that needs to go in and they need to make edits, they need to take notes, they need to add data. So this could be someone that goes in after you do the initial survey, or this is someone that's going out to the survey for you that is only working on specific jobs. You can invite them as a guest user. Now, a guest user will only have access to the sites you add them as guest users to, and they can have access to up to 5 sites at a time. I also want to note that guest user access is only available for our scale and enterprise plans. So if you don't see the option to invite as guest user as essentials or starter, that would be why. One thing to note here is what has already existed within System Surveyor, and this may be familiar to a lot of people, is the contacts section on the left-hand side of the site overview page. And this is where you can view your site contacts. Adding guest users has changed just a little bit, and it's still involved within the contact section here. But in order to become a guest user, I need to add them as a contact. So as I want to maybe invite Laura, I can open up the pencil icon here under contacts, click on new, and I can type in her information there. So first name, last name, and email address are bare minimum to add them as a contact. I can also add things like what company they're with, their title, their phone number, any notes. And in order to invite them as a guest user, I can toggle this at the very bottom of the page, and it's going to give me permission, edit access specifically, because if I'm wanting them to be able to edit as a guest user, that'd be the best course of action. You can also choose read only, and I can set my expiration date. There are a few options pre-baked in here, such as 1 week from today, 2 weeks from today, 30 days from today, or I can set a custom date. So if I know that Laura is going to be working on this project for the next year, I can include that expiration date and choose custom and insert my own expiration date there. And once I click add, it's going to send Laura an email with a link to accept that guest user invitation. Those invite links are good for 48 hours. So the moment that it's sent out, be sure to click those as needed. And if it doesn't work or you've gone past the time allotted, no problem. All the person needs to do that sent you that guest invite is delete you as a guest user and resend.
And Sean, this works just like for share link and for guest user. You can send to a group of sites, say your folder, or just one survey. Could you clarify?
So guest users go to the entire site. So they're going to have access to everything there. So that's going to be the only instance. It's not just edit access to one individual survey. It's going to be access to the entire site.
Okay. And you can send, say, a group of sites also with share link as well, like you were showing at the very beginning.
So with send a link, you can view access to entire sites or individual surveys. So for instance, if I wanted to give Laura here access to view Allen High School and all of the sites or all of the surveys within the Allen High School site, including things within folders, I would send a link from the site page. If I wanted to give Laura only access to, for instance, my 4th floor plan, I would send that link from the 4th floor plan page.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. Guest users is a great functionality to be able to use this way. If you have technicians that are, only working on specific jobs, you can invite them as guests. You'll still be able to see, edits that they've made. So if Laura was a guest user within my site, I could still view the audit of what was saved, when it was saved, who it was saved by under the survey info tab. So this is a great way of auditing that instead of having an entire user seat on your account that is just for technicians. This is one way that you can hash that out. You can give specific people specific datelines, to be able to narrow down how long they have access to what. And you can always view what access they have here under contacts and team permissions as needed as well. So next to Rete is one of my guest users. I can see that Rete has edit permission versus view only. So if I added them as a contact and I give them only read-only access, they would have an R like Lisa here has read-only permission. So that's where you would be able to see that as well. And before I get into the comments section of this collaboration piece, Laura, was there anything that came up on those two questions?
Yeah. One person has asked, just for more clarification, he says, for instance, I've created a folder that has 3 sites in it. It seems like I have to create guest users for each site instead of being able to add them to the group.
That is correct. So if you have sites that are within a site group, you would need to invite them to individual sites. This is so we can maintain that limit of 5 sites per survey, because if you had a site group that had 10 sites in it, you'd have to distinguish which one you're giving them access to instead of the entire site group.
Right. And just so we're clear too, it's 5 sites for a guest user.
Correct.
Okay. And can you limit the access to a shared site floor plan? For instance, a customer wants the survey, but they don't need access to specific attributes.
So if you want them to just be able to view the floor plan without being able to click into the attributes, you can share using a report. So that would be, running the report on the site level and running an enhanced floor plan report, or you can go through individual surveys and send those and share those, because those export as PDFs. That way you can get those out. But as to limiting the access of what attributes they have access to, that is something that's not there currently. The only thing that they won't be able to access in attributes is if you're using the info mask feature within that, they won't be able to view that encrypted information.
Great. Thank you, Sean.
Absolutely. Anything else before I move on, Laura?
Nope, that's it for now.
All right, fantastic. So next we're going to be going into comments. So they're already in the system here. They're either a guest user or there's someone who has access to my sites already. Now, how can I talk to them? Generally with companies, if they're, individual companies here, they'll use something like Slack and they'll talk to each other. Not everyone has the same thing, especially if they're subcontractors that work with a different company. You can use comments in this instance. So let's say I go to my 4th floor plan. Here, even on the survey overview plan, here on the top right of the page, you're going to see comments. This is where I can go through and I can communicate with my team. I have no comments open right now. So let's say I have been done doing my work and I now want to hand this off to the next step of the process. I can go through and I can type out my comment here. I can say work is done, next phase. Or I can even say, and even tag people. So if I wanted to tag Laura instantly, I could use her handle there and say, ready for your touches. If Laura's doing something else, I can go through and I can comment and want that, and I'll just say ready for you. When I send out that comment, it's going to view that here. And if I tag someone, they're actually going to get a notification on that bell icon. You'll see comments here, and they can go through and reply to it as needed as well. So if Laura had a question or a follow-up on this, she could click on reply and comment within that thread. That way I have that. And if this is something that is done, needs no more communication, I can go ahead and close it. That way it doesn't show up on the open comments thread. I can still view all my closed comments by toggling here at the top, and I can reopen it as I need as needed. But this is a great way of communicating within your teams on different processes. That way you have that open communication between. And was there anything else you wanted me to add there, Laura, or any questions that we have on that?
I think it's a good pro tip to know that like any comments that you do put in System Surveyor can be viewed by anyone. So pro tip, if you don't want a guest user or say, customer to see your, maybe just be cognizant of what you're saying in comments, and don't just throw it out there because everyone can't see it.
Absolutely. That's a great tip, Laura. Because the one thing I don't want to do is create a comment and tag someone and start talking trash about Laura, because Laura will be able to see that
Yeah, if I go in that survey, it might not be good.
comment. Absolutely. So not only a communication tool, but a way to keep your morale up. All right. And that really is it when it comes to that collaboration piece. Just to recap what we've covered today, going over how to send links. So how to give someone view only access to your surveys or sites, how to invite people as guest users. So that's giving them edit access to your sites, and how to comment within your surveys and communicate with your teams. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get back to this PowerPoint and then go into a Q&A session.
Right. And you guys, we meant this to be a really nice bite-sized webinar going deeper into collaboration, but we welcome all questions that you might have. Jacob, we are recording this webinar, so look for an email from me usually by the end of the day with the recording. And so Sean, let's see. For the comments section, can the comment threads be downloaded or saved?
Ooh, that's a great question. Let me check with my team and I'll get back with you offline on that one, Brandon.
Yeah, currently I don't think we have a reporting option for that, but that is a great request. Okay. Can you limit access for guest access per system, i.e. access cameras infrastructure?
So that's a great question, Paul. So they'll have the same access to the elements that your team does. And just to remember, you can limit the different system types that your team can view. So for instance, you can hide everything except for, I can show just cameras, access, control, infrastructure. But they'll have the same icons and same elements that your team does.
Great, great. Before I forget, you guys, we have a quick poll I'm going to launch as we're answering these questions. Let's see. Okay. The interface has changed a bit. What is different about the site access permissions? Is it available in your scale plan?
Yes, Marian, that is a great question. So the interface has changed a bit. So what's different about site access permissions is this allows you to not only gather site-wide permissions, so giving your entire team access, but you can also include individual exceptions, such as if I pull my screen back open for System Surveyor, and I go back into my site here, and I've paused my screen, so if anyone isn't seeing anything, that would be why. So site permissions here on the bottom left of your site overview page, you can change your permissions here, and this is something that your admin or the site creator will have access to do. So by default, my SSV global team has edit access. I can make sure they only have read-only access or no access to this site in particular. But this is where you can add exceptions as well. So we have a lot of admins on our account, but if you had team members or anyone else that you didn't want to have access to that site, you can create individual exceptions. So you have the overall permission, such as SSV Global Team having edit access. But if I wanted to create exceptions to that rule, such as Lisa, who is part of the SSV Global Team, I didn't want her to have edit access, but read access instead, I can add that individual exception, and that'll show here on the bottom right as well. But that is a great question.
Great. Okay. A deeper question. Am I structuring things incorrectly? I was thinking that a site should just be limited to a single address, but is it unrealistic to limit guest users to 5 sites? So maybe a site is actually just like an organization and each survey is a specific address.
So you can structure things a little bit different, and it's different for a lot of different use cases. So let's talk about Allen High School. Allen High School is one of the largest high schools in the nation, and it may be spread apart by different addresses. You can create sites that have multiple addresses in them. It's just going to show one address here at the top, but I like to think of sites almost like projects sometimes. So if you're working on, you know, an entire city block, you can create that as a site and have your individual addresses within your surveys, and just know that you have one main address for that site. You can do that as needed, but it's just all on how you structure them.
Okay. Can you explain how the release edit thing works again? Whenever I try to collaborate, I run into the issues with people requesting edits, releasing edits.
Absolutely. So I love this analogy when it comes to requesting and editing access within System Surveyor. So you have edit access, and I'm going to go ahead and release this right quick just to show. Whenever someone hits request edit on a survey, think of it like checking out a library book from the library. You are checking out that library book. You're the only person who is now able to read that physical copy of that book. So if I request edit access, I'm the only person that could go in and edit that survey until I release it. Releasing edit takes that book back to the library, puts it back on the shelf for other people to work. Now, this sometimes runs into a pretty common situation. What if I forget to release my edits before I leave? Let's say I go on a 3-week vacation and I forget to release my edits. Not to worry, your admins can go through, and if you forget to release an edit, they have access to do what's called revoke access. So on the 3 dots here on the bottom right of every survey tile, they'll have revoke survey edit. So your admins, if they need to, they can release that. Think of it kind of like phasing. So if I'm working on a survey and I'm doing my work, I'd request edit access. If someone already had access to it, it basically sends them an email that says, hey, someone has requested edit access, please release it. And once I'm done with my work, I can release it for the next person to then do their work. That way you don't run into the too many cooks in the kitchen with too many editors on one survey.
Right. And if I was in control of the survey, you could request it from me instead of just revoking it too, correct?
Absolutely. So Maureen is in control of this duplicate first floor sample survey. I can request survey edit, and it will send her an email that says, hey, so-and-so has requested edit access. Please release the survey.
Great. What level subscription is required for team permissions?
With this one, I believe it is scale and above. Laura, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, sir. That's correct. Scale and enterprise.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, and with you guys keep the questions coming in if you have any more. And with that, Sean, if you want to pop back over to the PowerPoint.
Sure thing.
As always, don't forget that we do have our manufacturer partners. System Surveyor is a partner agnostic platform. We'll take any and all. So if you guys have any manufacturers that you're working with that we don't currently have listed here, send them our way by going to our partners page and telling us that they're ready for us. And then any word on access yet? I'm not sure. I think we're still talking to them, but it's still, we don't have all of their element profiles yet. And it's in the works, I believe, but I'll get back to you on that one. And then, all of our webinars are listed on our Learning Center, which you can find on our website. You can see previous webinars, upcoming webinars. This one will be posted afterwards if you need a refresher course. And then a Vigilon. I do think we are also in discussions, but with the Vigilon, but if you also want to send them our way or, give your manufacturer over there to Vigilon a little tap on the shoulder and say, hurry up, that'd be great. And Sean, I'll let you wrap it up here.
Yeah. Absolutely. First off, I want to thank everybody for coming to today's webinar. If you have any questions about what you've heard today, or you just have any general questions about System Surveyor, please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach me here individually, or you can reach out to support@systemsurveyor.com. Also within the System Surveyor tool at the bottom right of every page, you're going to see a chat bubble. You can reach our team there as well. And if you'd like to schedule a demo or you want to learn a little bit more or have anyone that is interested within System Surveyor or with System Surveyor, you can always have them shoot us an email at info@systemsurveyor.com to get a demo scheduled.
Great. Well, thank you again for joining us. Keep your eyes peeled for our recording, and I will send that by the end of the day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.